This episode is sponsored by our good friends at Peep Show Toys.
Peep Show Toys is your go-to destination for non-toxic, body-safe toys for every pleasure, kink, and fantasy.
Whether you're exploring solo or with a partner, Peep Show Toys has something for everyone, from luxurious vibrators to tantalizing bondage gear, all prioritizing your health and safety.
Visit peepshowtoys.com and use our promo code CWDATB for 10% off your order.
What's that code again?
CWDATB for 10% off your order.
Thanks, Peep Show Toys.
If you know the guy Hubba that I call Hubba, I did invite him over, but since he lives like an hour away, he has never come. Interestingly, though, I have always gone down there. And that was the only time that I went into someone's house on any date, but it was the first date because he said, come meet me at my house and we'll walk to a bar. So I thought, okay. So I come to his house. We don't walk to a bar. He like walks back up and we sit on the couch. And I'm just like, he offered me water. I was like, I'm not drinking anything. I'm not taking my shoes off. I'm not even taking my jacket off. I'm going to hold my purse and my phone.
At what point do you just say, okay, where's that bar you want to take me?
You know, what I said was, I'm not sure what you think is going to happen here because he dimmed the lights too. And I'm like, what? This is our first meeting. Like, it's not even the end of a first date, which is also too soon for me. But like, it was like, hello, let me turn the lights down. And I was like, which app do you think we met on? And what is happening right now?
Welcome, fellow lushes. Come on in, pull up a bar stool, and enjoy some cocktails with Dimples and the Beard.
So yes, we've officially made it. This podcast has reached a new
high.
Well, a new mark, a new level. We have
higher.
We have our first official troll, and I like it.
Thank you so much, sir.
I know I am enjoying the shit out of it.
I mentioned the name, but we'll just call him TT.
Yeah, TT. Yeah, I don't know what caught his craw that he or she.
Don't know.
It's a he. There's no way.
You're speculating.
No, it's just a she. Wouldn't be. No, it wouldn't be a she. Yeah, I don't know what caught his how he got a bee in his bonnet about our stuff, but he did, and now I feel like we've hit the fucking algorithm because somebody's comment.
You just attack.
He is. I know. Body blow. Pretty soon he's gonna come swinging for the head.
Oh, I can't wait. Can't wait. TT, don't let up. We love you. We love how much you love us. As
TT, if you'll come on the podcast, we'll send you a shirt.
There you go. We would like the world
or a sticker
to see and hear you.
Yeah. No, I would like to meet you. I want to know why you hate me so much.
Well, okay. I mean, to be fair, that's understandable. But why don't you hate me?
Right. Exactly. I mean, if you're gonna hate one
Give
of us,
me some love, hate relation.
Okay. Anyway, we need to talk to a woman who's half our age. So apparently they're all half our age. Dude, I think we're never mind. They're all half our age.
Inside story, but besides TT, continue on, TT. Leave a comment. Obviously, you're sharing with your friends, TT. Thank you. But everybody share, like, and comment.
TT has no friends.
He has two right here.
Well,
right?
Yes, we are his friends.
All right. Let's not let TT go to the wayside. We want to party with a TT.
Okay. Can we get to it? Or did you do your stuff?
Just let's not leave a pretty lady waiting.
All right. So without further ado, host of the Love Before 100 podcast, Rachel Burch. So thank you for joining us, Rachel Burch, host of the.
I just froze up right there.
Did you?
I did.
Yeah.
I was gonna. Anyways,
stunned by her beauty already.
All right. I am. I need a moment of silence for myself.
Host of the Love Before 100 podcast, a storytelling podcast with 3 seasons and the 4th one on the way, I would assume.
We'll see what happens with the men, but yeah.
What with men, it's a never ending journey story. So you should be able to do this for the rest of your life, even if you get married or have a lifelong partner. You should still be able to.
Yeah, we're
Read it
still
out.
idiots even then. So
Right. Just because we get married doesn't mean we change our
Well, yeah,
ways.
I would definitely want a man who would want to be involved in a continuing podcast. I couldn't have someone that wanted privacy.
yeah.
So let's put that out there. And at what point in your dating do you tell them about the podcast, and when do you say your privacy's gone?
I mean, I guess it depends on the person. Most men don't know about the podcast because they don't last that long. And they don't last that long because they're comical and story worthy.
Perfect.
So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
All right. So before we go forward, let's go back. How did we get to this point where we're doing a podcast about our dating life and trying to find love before 100?
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Nope. I like that. We'll get into your life before the podcast.
Sometimes he thinks he can ask better questions than me, but he's wrong. So
Sorry, what? Did you say something? Yes, go.
Okay. So I'm kind of like an unwilling participant in this podcast journey. I really don't know how I got here. I really feel like it was kind of not to be too woo-woo, but the universe kind of put this in my lap. So I could take you on that kind of whole journey, but basically, yeah, I don't know. I'm typically a private person when it comes to dating, and I don't know what happened. It just went off the rails a little bit.
So why did you get back in the dating world?
Well, I got divorced, and I've actually been divorced about 7 years, but I got back in the dating world. I would say 2 years ago today.
Oh shit!
Oh,
All right.
Well,
Yeah.
happy
Why is
dating
this
anniversary.
Yeah, why is this date so memorable? What happened 2 years ago today?
Thank you.
So the podcast was the result of meeting this man on a plane.
Okay.
I have a fear of flying. I basically decided that I flew to Las Vegas for 36 hours to overcome my kind of fear. And then when I got back, my best friend from college called and said, "Hey, I'm going to go to DC. Do you want to come with me?" So I went, and on the flight back from DC in this layover, I met a man on the plane.
Okay.
And he lived in Minnesota, which was where the layover was. And I live in California, and we had a little bit of a long distance situation, I would say relationship, but these days there's a lot of new terms for
situationship.
People.
Are we celebrating because that day you joined the Mile High Club?
No.
Oh, darn it. I thought I had it. I thought I nailed it. I'm sorry.
We are celebrating because that went so horribly wrong that sorry, don't choke.
So we're not celebrating. Let's get
Well, that's what was the inspiration for the whole podcast. So I celebrate it as the day the podcast was born, or in utero. No, not born. I guess it was the sperm of the podcast was
conceived.
All
right.
Conceived.
Okay.
I was not involved in the conceiving part.
Yeah. The story started to present itself to you just out of the air.
So how long did you see this gentleman?
Well, because it was long distance, it was almost 3 months, but there was the date of being on the airplane, which was 3 hours of talking, and then there was a date, and then the month went by, and then there was another date. So basically it was 3 dates, but over 3 months.
Yeah.
And now that I am where I'm at in dating, which is the journey that I've taken over the last 3 seasons, I look back at that version of me and I'm like, oh yeah, that was no. But I didn't know, because I was brand new to dating. I had met my ex-husband when we were 22, and we started dating, and then we got married at 28. And, so I hadn't dated before. And that's what makes the podcast so comical because I'm in my 40s and I'm like dating like a 20-year-old where I don't know, how to do it.
Well, what makes this funny is you're a great storyteller,
Thank
and
you.
you're able to tell it. You do also do some stand-up comedy, so you're able to tell it in a funny way and present it in a funny way, and you're open and vulnerable and honest with it, which is what makes it funny, right? If you're not willing to feel the embarrassment or to dish out some of the embarrassment, it's not going to be funny, right? So
Yeah, thank you.
So what was that push from conception to I'm just doing it?
So during the time that I was dating the guy, I had a friend come and visit me, and she and I are both life coaches. We met in a coaching program. And so I thought, okay, if I had a client that was in this situation, what would I tell them to do? And I would tell them to write a list of all the things that they couldn't do if they were in a happy relationship with this guy in Minnesota. And the only thing I could think of was lots of other men. There's not a lot of things you can't do in a relationship, but going out with other guys is maybe one of them. Depending, I mean, these days there's all types of relationships too. So in the one that I'm looking for, that would be off limits. So I started to write out this list, like a fireman, a bald guy, like
guy with a beard,
celebrity, a bearded guy. Yeah. Like someone in their 50s, someone in their 30s. Like I just wrote a bunch of things down.
So someone in their 20s wasn't on the first list.
It was not on the list.
But you got there.
I got there.
Alert, you got there.
Reluctantly. Well, not that reluctantly. It didn't take much, but I got there.
And good for you.
Thank you.
That's all part of the journey.
You're supposed to say congratulations. That's the men always say congratulations, and then I always say, I didn't birth this baby, right? He came out of someone else. He just wants to go back in me.
Here's what I would say.
That's true.
As the man, I would say congratulations to him, not to you. You got to deal with a 27-year-old or something like that.
But it is usually the older that, how'd you get that younger one? But if you were here, we would high five you.
Okay. I appreciate that. I'm gonna high five you back.
Yeah.
But yes, that's the setup for one of your jokes.
One of my jokes
is that. And so the joke wrote itself from your
life
life
experience. Funny because the joke wrote itself before I was even open to it. I thought it was so ridiculous. But now I have a set coming up and I just added, stand-up comedy is not funny over Zoom like ever, but I just added a joke to that set that was written before that now is, we didn't get to go out on the date because his mom refused to sign the parental consent form and the damage and liability waiver. And then I'm going to say, you must be at least this high to ride this ride.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect.
When did the stand-up comedy start in relation to all of this? Were you doing stand-up comedy before you started the dating stuff?
Oh, yes. I've been doing it. See, it's funny because all my jokes are about, my original set is about being married and being a lawyer and this whole thing. And so and people loved it. So even after I was divorced, I would still do that set. But then I realized, Rachel, you're missing the opportunity. There might be a single guy in the audience that is going to rush the stage and be a groupie. So you can't be talking about being married. You got to change it up to being single. So I did that for a while, but I think it was too desperate. So I had to pull it back a little bit. So now it's about dating, but I took the lawyer kind of dating or the lawyer question stuff. And now I just translated to pretend it's stuff that I ask on the first date instead of stuff that I asked my ex-husband as we were preparing to get married. So
I would feel on the first day with a lawyer, I'd feel like I was on the stand and you were questioning me. Was that your first couple of dates where you were like that? You just couldn't get away from it, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I was expecting to say no.
Now let's make sure everybody understands. Former attorney, because the best word you can use with attorney is former. So
let's step back. So you married your husband and you were obviously going to school and you wanted to be a lawyer. Was that a lifelong dream?
Yes. My dad, I like to say I was brainwashed by my dad and Matlock because we watched Matlock together every day. And then I got into it and I was like, I was lied to. Like, this is nothing like Matlock, you know?
What?
It's
Serious?
not. Mm-mm.
Yeah, the cool thing now is with YouTube, if you're going to be a lawyer, you can watch like all real trials and stuff like that and realize it's not like it looks in the movies and on TV and stuff.
No.
It's all clunky and shit, and there's no dramatic lighting. It's
So
No.
you wanted to be in court like Matlock, and you wanted at the end them to confess, and you
Yeah.
found yes, okay.
I wanted to save the day, you know?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
nice.
So what
No
part of
days were
law did you
saved.
go in? Oh,
I did business litigation for 5 years, and then I got out of that and went in-house, and I was general counsel, like head of the legal department for 5 years.
okay.
And you just on a whim just said, "Fuck it, I'm done with this. I can't do this anymore."
I mean, I said that every day, but it finally actually like happened. My first son, when he's 14 now, but when he was 18 months, he had some developmental delays. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to learn about health and, health coaching and all that kind of stuff. And I went part-time, and then they just gave me the same amount of work, but in less time. And so I ended up
Fucking
going to the
lawyers.
emergency room twice,
Oh,
thinking I was
shit.
having a heart attack, but it was panic attacks. And after that, it was just kind of like, I'm just going to focus on my family. And so I left the law. And then he got caught up very quickly. And I was kind of like, okay, well, I like it better this way. So
Yeah.
I'm going to do something else.
Is that when you went into life coaching then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so you're in the life coaching right after. So you got out of lawyering right away before the whole podcasting thing.
Oh, yeah. Podcasting. It was lawyer for 10 years and stand-up comedian kind of as like a hobby. And then there was a little bit of time where I was at home trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I fell in love. I, went to school as a health coach, but they talked about life, how it contributes to your health, being in a good relationship and loving your job and all that kind of stuff. So I went into health coaching for like a minute, and then I was kind of like, I love this, but I don't want to talk about like kale and legumes all day. I want people to like quit their jobs and have these epic lives.
Yeah.
And so my first client was like, she came to me. I had actually donated a 90-day program to a charity, like a silent auction. So she was my first client, didn't pay me, came through an auction, and I didn't know her. And she said, I have a 2-year plan. I'm going to quit my job. My husband and I are engineers. I'm going to quit my job in 2 years. And I was like, why not now? And then by our second call, she had quit her job and was like, her life was changed. Her kids were better. Her husband, everything was better. And I was like, I can do this. I just have to tell people what to do. Quit your job, leave your marriage, like go do that thing you said you wanted to do,
Wait, what if I hire you to be my life coach and you tell me to quit my job and it doesn't work out? That do I get a salary from you then?
No, we're gonna have a big legal disclaimer that you're gonna sign before that.
So many pages that you're just like, I'm just signing.
Right. Nobody reads all that. Everybody's just
I've
signing.
never had that happen, just for the record.
Yeah.
Which, yes, it's good to put that out there.
Yes, let's put it on the record.
So when you did the life coach, quit being a lawyer and life coach, were you still married?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just trying to, we jump around. I apologize, but in my head, I'm trying to get the timeline right and to get to where you are now.
Yeah.
Which is, looks like you're shining and amazing. So you quit your job before you knew to tell people to quit your job.
Correct. Yes. That's why I can do it, right? You got to do it first, and then you can tell other people.
Right.
You don't want to follow someone's advice that hasn't done what they want to do.
Yeah. You don't want a financial coach who's like in debt to their eyeballs. That doesn't make sense. You need somebody who's lived the dream, right? And doing it the right way. So
if you remember, we had another coach on a while back, and you had mentioned, hey, listening to you, I'm going to quit my job tomorrow.
Yep.
And you said that to him. I love watching you because I want to quit my job tomorrow because of you.
Yep. And
he said, no, slow down. Don't be a dumbass.
Right.
And then he gave you a bunch of reasons to love your job again.
That's why I've never talked to him again.
I got nothing.
I see where this is going, and I don't like it.
Oh.
All I want is somebody to tell me to quit my job and for it to work out. But anyway, I got plenty of time for that.
Well, you have the appropriate shirt on for that advice.
Oh yeah, I had to look down. I never forget. I never remember what I'm wearing for the podcast. It's always one of those deals. So now we're doing the podcast. When do you sit down and say, okay, I'm going to start record? Because obviously you kind of, I assume you had all the stories kind of done for season 1, and then you sat down and, it was kind of a work in progress, living, breathing.
Yeah. How do I say this humbly? I can't. I'm pretty impressed with myself with how it turned out, because it was the first story, the story of the plane. So episode 1 is kind of me talking about my upbringing. Episode 2 is the guy on the plane. Episode 3, I have my friend come on who's an expert in serial killers, and we talk about how not to date a serial killer. She's hilarious.
That right there is like number 1 advice. Just don't date a serial killer. Perfect. Bam.
Yeah, it goes without saying.
You're
just don't do it.
Killing it. You're killing it.
Just don't do it. Well, we have some little like tricks, like if you have a dating profile and you have a picture with your mom on it, it's like a red flag. So many men think that it's endearing, but it's a red flag.
Okay.
But wait, what was the question? Oh yeah. So at a certain point, we get caught up. I think episode 5, where I actually have a guy that I went on a date with come on the podcast. We do a Zoom.
Okay. I want to talk about that.
Ghosts. And I won't disclose, but like, he has a very prominent job here in Orange County. And when I go to events and I'm like, oh, do you know so-and-so? Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, don't listen to my podcast then. But starting with, I think, episode 6. Oh, that's where I contemplate having a one night stand, because I ran out of like, whatever. But what was interesting was every week I would write it, and I write like 8, 9, 10 drafts before I record it, because I'm a perfectionist. And then I record it, but I read it, but I actually, just like I do with stand-up comedy, I read it over so many times that it becomes familiar. So it doesn't sound like I'm reading it, because listening to someone read whatever they're reading, unless you're listening to an audiobook to fall asleep, you're going to tune out. So I spent a lot of time on it, and but it got to the point where I was chasing, it was like, I'd go out, I'd go on a date, and I'd wonder, like, is this going to go anywhere, so that it's going to continue the character arc? Cause I actually follow like the hero's journey and all the different elements of the character arc. So at the end of season 1, there's this like guy that just shows up outside a bar, like miraculously. And I just thought, I'm like, the finale is going to be pretty boring, but it'll be funny. And I just knew like the universe was placing the right people at the right time in the right place. So a lot of that happened kind of real time.
So when you went into doing season 1, did you know you were going to do 10 episodes, or was it kind of when you started where you're like, well, let's see how far this goes before I kind of need to take a break?
So this podcast was originally going to be a one-woman show.
Okay.
And then I realized, I don't want to rent a theater and sell tickets and like actually stand on stage and perform a one-woman show. Nothing about a one-woman show actually appeals to me. So maybe I should try to figure out another way to do this. And I already had a podcast. I was going into the 5th season of it. And so I hired a producer, and I said, look, I do a podcast on personal development. I want to have season 5, all things personal development, maybe 1 or 2 episodes on dating, just because it's so challenging. And so I went on Upwork and I looked to find a producer. And the third one down was a guy from Australia who happened to live in my city here in California, and who also happened to be a former producer for like The Bachelor Australia, The Biggest Loser Australia, The Voice, all the reality shows.
Okay. Sure. That perfect. Yes.
Yeah. Perfect for me. So I did a, discovery call with him, and he was like, this bucket list idea is really interesting. And I thought I could probably still do personal development through a bucket list. And then it just kind of, I started crying because it was like right after I had broken up with the guy on the plane. And I was like, I just don't want people to feel alone. It feels so alone going through this. Like, I want people. So what had happened was, after we slept together, like immediately after, it was like he wasn't interested anymore. You know, there are certain men that is the end game, right? I mean, I'm sure
there's somewhere out there. There's somewhere out there.
Yeah, there's somewhere out there. What do they call him? Conqueror. The conqueror.
That's not what I would call him, but okay.
No.
Are you self-identifying?
Making him happy.
So I had a client in my life coaching business that had a very similar, like the same thing happened to her. She found this guy, and then as soon as, you know, that happened, like, you know, crickets.
Yeah.
So
I
I
love
thought,
how you keep referring to him as the guy.
The guy.
The guy.
Props to him.
Props to him.
Just for igniting stuff, but I'm sorry.
No, I'm not, I have no bad feelings towards him. I actually have a lot of gratitude for all this. And, you know, I take responsibility for being so naive in the dating process that I didn't know that was.
We've all gone through that.
But now I do. And so I really wanted to, I call it the hump and dump. I've seen it since then by other people, but that was kind of what occurred to me, hump and dump. So I was like, you know, I don't want people to make this, because I was like, oh, I should have waited and I should have done this and I should have done that. And I'm like, you know what? It was inevitable. It was going to happen. So the podcast was really, let me share this story so other people don't feel so bad. Yeah. And so when I'm talking to this producer and I'm crying, he's like, I love your mission. I want to help you. And so we kind of came up with this, and I thought, okay. So the other thing is, I had taken a one-woman show class. That's how I learned about, you know, the one-woman show format. And she had said that if you're going to turn it into a TV series, you need 3 seasons. It's kind of like, you know, Ted Lasso, like any of the shows on the streaming services, they're 3 seasons. Yeah. So, and I had also read a book about finding your soulmate, and it talked about there's this big thing that you have to do before your soulmate can come in. So I was like, I think it's the podcast, and I think it's 3 seasons. As soon as I do 3 seasons, he will come in. He hasn't, but it was enough motivation to get me to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, right now it's kind of being considered for a sitcom. Like,
perfect. That'd be great.
I mean, it's in the process, but don't get too excited.
Tell everybody it is an award-winning podcast. You won the Signal Award for.
Yeah. There you go.
There they are.
Best gateway podcast. What do they mean when they say gateway podcast?
To drugs?
It is a podcast that introduces listeners to the wonderful world of podcasting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. So perfect. How did you get nominated for it? And I mean, what is that whole process?
A couple things. One, you nominate yourself. Well, you submit yourself, and then there are judges, and they put you into the to be nominated as a finalist. So I was put into that category. And then I took silver. So that's the from the judges. And then this is the listener's choice. I took gold for the category. However, I've noticed that the category is missing. They just opened for this round. I don't know. Either it's like the Hall of Fame, nobody can ever beat it, so they're just going to retire the category.
Got rid of your category.
Yeah.
That's all you got to say.
Let's just go with that.
Nobody else could top what I did. They got rid of it.
Nobody else could ever introduce anyone to a podcast.
Perfect.
It's just me or nothing.
That's the award.
So you said there you don't know if there's going to be a season 4, and I'm going to admit I'm not completely caught. I've not listened to all of season 3, but I do know season 1 and season 2 both ended with cliffhangers of a sort.
Yes.
And I don't want to spoil anything, but if season 3 ended with a cliffhanger, how will we ever, if there's no 4?
Get on with our life.
Season 3's finale is done in a way that it leaves space, but it also feels very complete.
Okay. Because I know at the end of season 1 and when you listen to the trailers for the next year season, you talk about being exhausted from everything that went into the seasons. And I can imagine, I spent some years in there in the dating world, and it is exhausting. And And I can only imagine how much more exhausting it is for women, especially when you're using dating apps and all that kind of stuff, because you're getting 20 times, 100 times the amount of, people coming up to you than the guys are for the most part. So yeah, I would imagine it's a real exhausting thing to go through all of it.
It is. And then it's like when I want to take a break, but I need content, and to force myself to go on dates is hard. And then
So
being vulnerable and like actually sharing all the stories of it is hard.
Right.
So have you
Like
done that? Have
go
you
ahead.
done that where you just said, I need content. Let's look at the app. I'm just going to go on dates to meet these goofy guys just to get content.
I mean, yes, but also I really do want to find a partner. So,
Sure.
it's like, it's kind of like if you went to the gym, but you really wanted to get in shape and you forced yourself to go to the gym because you knew it would make you feel better in the moment. Like it kind of has that dual purpose. And that's one of the reasons why I started the podcast, to stay in the game, even when I want to quit, which is like every day. So,
right. But does that persuade the way you swipe right or left? Like, that guy looks like a good story. We're going on a date with him.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now
I can't.
How many dating stories where you were just like, nope, that can't make the podcast. That one's just too much.
Oh,
there's a lot that I wrote that I tried to make work. Like I have one that I call like the tale of two Kevins, where I went out with like two Kevins in one day. Are you a Kevin?
I'm a Kevin.
You're a Kevin. So there could be a tale of three Kevins. Tale of two Kevins. Yeah. And that I just like, it was a major catfish. Kevin number one, they were both actually like, one was a Zoom date and the guy was very different than his pictures. It felt like an interview. And then the other one was in the military and he was the lead singer of a band, but his photos were like probably 15 years old. And there was not like, I had nothing to say. Like I couldn't have a conversation. And then I asked him if he liked comedy, because we were talking about movies, and he said no. And I was just like, why are you on a date with me? Like,
check, please.
My profile.
Do you tell people on your dating profiles that you do stand-up comedy?
Sometimes.
Okay.
I have that question, two truths and a lie.
Yeah.
And one of them is that I performed at the Irvine Improv, which is like a big comedy club.
How many dating apps are you on?
So I've tried a lot. I'm currently on none because.
So there's a difference between, all right, I've tried 10 of them.
Yeah.
But how many do you actively stay with?
I try to be on one at a time.
Okay. And which do you say was most successful, or, well, it sounds like none of them were successful, but which do you feel was the most prosperous for you?
So Bumble, because I was on it the longest, but I don't like the concept of the woman having to make the first move. It's just not how I want to be in a relationship. But I got a lot of hits or catches. I got a lot of my stories are from Bumble. All the young guys are from Hinge.
Okay.
And in the season 3 season finale, I talked about going out with this guy, James, and he's 52. And James is funny because he is 10 minutes late to the date that he set for close to his house, not anywhere near my house. And he comes in and tells me a story about rooming with a serial killer in college. Ooh. And I was like, your roommate? And he was like, my cellmate. And I was like, I think that's worse, actually. I think that's worse. He was there for, I don't know, like public urination. And then he told me about this. Yes. Okay. But did you share a cell
for it? I didn't go to the big house for it.
Did you share a cell with a serial killer?
No, I just got a $281 fine.
Yeah. Well, you and James could hit it off. James also has a great idea for a car wash where the women wear bikinis, which is very unique. He's original. No man has ever come up with that idea.
You want to hear my good idea?
Yeah.
It's a drive-through coffee place where the girls wear nothing but bikinis, and it's called C cups, like coffee cups.
I love it. See, I told him he could call it Honkers.
There's perfect.
Honkers is bet for both.
Every
Either
time-
one of them.
Every time you pull up, you honk, and then they come out and wash your car.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 100 car washes in bikinis, 100 coffee places in bikinis.
Yeah,
You got to have the right name.
I thought I had a
Right.
brilliant idea too until we were in Phoenix, Arizona, and we found one. And I'm like, oh, my idea's gone.
He
Never
talked,
mind.
he talked about it. I'm like, well, no, I have it on my list. We're just going to walk down here and go to one.
Anyway,
Sorry.
it happens. Where were we?
We're all brilliant with our ideas.
I think so.
And if you pursue them, that's kind of your basis. If you got a dream, just to pursue it and
You
see
don't
where
know
it
where
goes.
it's going to go. Who knows
Yeah.
what it's going to turn into? Who cares if there's one in Arizona? Where are you guys?
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yeah. Right next to your Minnesota man. So yeah.
Right.
Spent a lot of time in the Minnesota airport.
We might hang out with him later. We might see what he's doing this weekend to just hang out.
The 26-year-old is also from Minnesota.
Oh, you got a thing for
Oh,
Minnesota?
wow. What's up with Minnesota?
I do
it's
like
a- it's a-
Midwestern culture.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
So how did you meet up with the 26-year-old in Minnesota on a dating app?
Yeah, on Hinge. He had a big T-shirt that said Minnesota on it, and I was like, "Well, this is gonna turn out great."
Because every guy from Minnesota I've dated has been great.
Yeah. Why not?
Have you had any of the guys that you've told stories about on the podcast? Has anybody messaged you and said, "Hey, what the fuck"?
No.
Okay, so nobody. I mean, I
No,
know
what
for
the
the most
fuck?
part you don't give out a lot of names. I mean, there's a lot of nicknames and stuff. But if they know the store, I mean, they would obviously be able to figure it out.
But
So-
you've had
No, but I have had like the fireman from
Yeah.
Sedona that I met.
Yeah.
He actually we've stayed in contact. He actually was like, "I love how you portrayed me. Thank you." And I was like,
There
"Okay,
you
you're welcome."
Yeah. That's
so
perfect.
have you ever
Yeah.
had them like speaking on your podcast with you?
The one guy.
Yeah, the one guy.
Yeah.
Because that was and how did that come about? You told him ahead of time, like, I'll have you on after so many dates?
No, he invited himself to be on. He thought that would be great. I'm like,
Typical guy.
typical guy. I know. Oh,
And you
I
go ahead.
just went to the podcast movement convention in
okay.
LA. And I took it upon myself to ask a man out, which I've never done like blindly. I did it to that guy that was on the podcast. I asked him if he wanted to get a drink, but we had matched on a dating app. This guy
Wow.
had said that he was like, "I have an idea for you." Oh, he was like, "Oh, you're single?" He seemed very interested. My friend told me he was very interested. So,
By
he was
by
like,
the start of this story, I'm wondering if you're still friends with this friend.
so he
get to that.
he said, "I would pay," he said, $500 if you had a podcast where your sons interview your suitors, and then when I'm dating, because he didn't live here in California. When I'm dating, I could send someone to your podcast and they could hear a nice episode about me, right? And I was like, "Okay, that's interesting." So the next day I went up to him and I said, "I have a better idea for you." I said, "You could either be on this podcast that you suggested and be one of many good suitors, or you could come on my podcast. You could be the shining star in the midst of all these not good suitors, and you would seem even better
Yeah.
to a prospect." And he was like, "Okay, how would that work?" And I said, "Well, instead of $500, you could take something less, like $100 and take me out." And then he's like, "Oh, then I would come on your podcast." I'm like, "You could, or I could tell the story about you." And he was like, "Okay, I like this idea." He goes, "Is this your creative way of asking me out?" And I was like, "Maybe." So,
Nice.
he said, "I like this idea." And he took my phone number. And then for the rest of the convention, every time we walked by each other, he texted me. So I would have his phone number. And then the rest of the convention, he ignored me. And I was like,
Oh,
I know, it was very weird. I'm like, I know he saw me. You can't walk by someone in the halls at least 5 different times and never see them. It's just not. And I thought, oh, that doesn't feel very good. I had so much sympathy and compassion for men after asking someone out. They feigned that they were that interested, gave me their phone number. I know it was his phone number because it like populated with his picture. And then they ignore you. Like,
welcome to my world.
I know, what jerks.
No, you get fake numbers.
Only half the time.
Let's
Have you
call
ever
him.
given Have
I
you
have
ever
his
given a
number.
fake number?
Yeah.
Okay.
But in college,
Okay,
not
well.
as an adult.
Yeah, that's
Oh, I was gonna say because most of them have like. I was gonna ask you what's that number because usually the girls have it like boom. That's
Well,
six-
now I have a Google number. I do have a fake number, but it's my phone number that I can text people that I feel safe with.
oh yeah, that's cool.
Well, let's touch on safety. So
Yeah.
when you're on dating, and safety is a big part of it, obviously. So I would imagine all your first dates are somewhere away from your house.
Yes.
When
yes.
and let's go into your safety of the dating first, second dates. So what time at what point do you say, "Welcome to my home"?
So that's not something that I do.
I was gonna say I'm into season 3 and I don't think it's happened yet. So
It's actually the season finale.
story.
I cross off the list, inviting someone into my home. If you know the guy Hubba Hubba that I call Hubba Hubba, I did invite him over, but since he lives like an hour away, he has never come. Interestingly, though, I have always gone down there. And that was the only time besides the season finale that I went into someone's house on any date, but it was the first date because he said, "Come meet me at my house and we'll walk to a bar." So I thought, okay. So I come to his house. We don't walk to a bar. He like walks back up and we sit on the couch. And I'm just like,
the bar in his house.
yeah,
Duh. I have a
what is
bar right
happening
over
right
there.
now?
I have 2 couches. I have 2 bars. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
and a bottle of booze in between them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or champagne.
I didn't drink anything. He offered me water. I was like, I'm not drinking anything. I'm not taking my shoes off. I'm not even taking my jacket off. I'm going to hold my purse and my phone.
So at what point do you just say, "Okay, where's that bar you want to take me?"
You know, what I said was, I'm not sure what you think is going to happen here because he dimmed the lights too. And I'm like,
Ooh.
what? This is our first meeting. Like, it's not even the end of a first date, which is also too soon for me. But like, it was like, hello, let me turn the lights down. And I was like, which app do you think we met on? And what is happening right now?
So how did you get out of that date?
Well, I mean,
Or how long? No.
She slept with him.
No, let me ask.
I didn't, but it was.
Let
very
me ask you this.
tempting.
This is what I want to know. Forget his crude.
So
How long
crazy.
were you there?
An hour. And
Yeah, it seems like 55 minutes too long, but whatever.
So the reason his name is Hubba Hubba is because he has a lot of online reviews. He works in the emergency room, and all the reviews are from women talking about how good looking he is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why his name is Hubba Hubba. I didn't
assumed
expect
it
to like
was-
actually go out with him, but we had a very nice conversation.
In the
and
dark.
then I left. Yes.
Semi-dark.
Semi-dark. And second date was never initiated by him, you, or you just
He
said,
initiated the second date, which was also at his house.
I would think Hubba Hubba is in the thing of date number 1. I'm scoring. Okay, if not, we'll go to 2. And then he's got a number that if she's not putting out because all my dates are in my house, by this number, I just won't call her again.
So we've had 6 dates.
Oh my!
And we have not.
You've gone to his house 6 times.
Yeah.
Haven't left the house once.
He's like really good looking.
So then, okay, so I apologize for being personal. So why haven't you slept with him? Because if I went to a girl's house 6 times and she was hot,
Yeah.
I'd have slept with her. Even if she's like, here's water and you'll be roofied, I would still drink it and sleep with her.
You called me crude. Jesus.
That wasn't crude. That was real. Crude.
Real crude. You don't have to
Real
answer
crude.
that. You don't have to answer that.
No, I just, I think I was hurt so badly the first time that I like just needed to like recalibrate, figuring out like getting to know people. And then I was ready, to be honest. And when I went over on the 5th and 6th date, he was like working from home. And so I was just working. It was as if we were in a relationship, but we weren't. And so there
Yep.
wasn't, he had to leave to go to work for the emergency room. And I was like, I came here, I'm thinking, to have sex. Like, what is happening? So I became ready after the 4th date.
Okay.
And then the 5th and 6th. And then he invited me down, the last couple months he's been texting a lot, but I was dating the 26-year-old and I don't need to diversify my love.
That's personal choice. Yeah.
So that is my choice. Yeah.
Yep.
And so that there may be a recurring role. There may be a something else,
so Hubba's not out of the picture.
He's not out of the picture.
Okay.
But he's working out of state for a couple months. So he's been removed by the universe for an intermission.
I'm a little I'm not gonna lie, a little disappointed in Hubba on the 5th and 6th date that he had you over and he had other things on his mind.
That makes 2 of us. I was
Okay.
like, wait a minute, now you want to like get to know me and like my personality? What is happening right now?
So do you have rules of, because I've heard that
rules.
girls what?
She has rules, yeah.
Yeah, I get that, but what are your rules? It's a better question. Because I've heard a lot of times, like, I don't sleep with a guy till 3rd date. I don't, and if I don't get to the 3rd date, obviously I don't sleep with him. Things like that. Do you have something in your back of your mind, or do you just wing it?
No, it's definitely like a winging thing. If you, towards the end of the 3rd season, these are all spoiler alerts, but I figure who cares? It was a 2nd date. And I was like, you know what? I had this realization. You keep saying you have a whole season about trying to have sex, like to have more sex, to get, and you keep getting these opportunities, but you say no, and then you complain about it. So in the moment, we're in my car, that's, and with the 20, he was 25 at the time. And he was like, do you wanna? And I'm like, no, it's the 2nd date. Like, no.
Right.
And then I had this voice from the heavens that was like, Rachel, do you want to do this or not? So finally I was like, okay, fine, let's just do it.
So your voice said, Rachel, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Basically.
The devil or the angel? Which one won? I don't know. The devil.
It was both. It was both. They were like, come on, it's time.
They
were in
collaborated.
agreement.
They collaborated and just got,
collaborated.
That's when you know it's right.
Exactly.
It's forget the rules. When the devil and the angel collaborate, you know it's right.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. I just made that up, but I'm going to live by it now.
So how is speed? I see you've done speed dating. You talk about it on one of the episodes, and is that actually a viable way to meet people?
Highly do not recommend.
Okay.
Highly do not recommend. I've done it online and in person. Highly do not recommend. I think it's not for
true people that are truly looking for someone, or
no, they are very much looking for someone, but maybe don't have other places to look for them.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Like, ooh, maybe if this person only talks to me for 2 minutes, then there's a chance. It's like, I don't know.
Is that what it is? I don't know. I've never done it. I don't know if it's around here, if I could sign up, but is it like 2 minutes to sit down and the buzzer goes off?
So it was, I think 5 minutes online and 10 minutes, which felt like 20,000 minutes in person.
10 minutes, if you're not connecting, is a long time.
No,
Wow.
it was, one guy was like, I just got back from New York and I took this girl and I paid for everything. And like, I think I want to give up dating. And I'm like, wait, am I supposed to like therapize him now or feel bad? And I don't know what's happening here, but I don't like it. Like,
you were supposed to talk him into continuing. Is that?
I don't know. It was really
the
weird.
savior?
It was very weird, but I did feel bad for him. So, maybe that was, I'm not usually someone that is attracted to people that I feel sorry for, just
Right,
like as a general rule. That would be a rule that I have.
That you're not looking to save anybody.
Yes.
Okay. Which is, I think, a good rule, because people that want to save each other, you can't save them.
No.
In my opinion, they have to save themselves.
Yeah.
So the premise of the title of the podcast, Love Before 100, is kind of double. You have the bucket list, which has point values, and you also refer to before you turn 100. But the bucket list has point values. How many points are you up to?
Well, as of the season finale,
Yeah.
100.
All right.
So that's where you're talking about if we're going to go on or not.
Yeah.
So if you do it, you have to rebrand it Love Before 200.
Well, I have a bunch of ideas actually.
People are living longer
now.
Which
angle I'm going to go in, but I have one idea, which I'm not going with, is I have to do something that's so ridiculous that I like subtract points so I can have a second shot. But
there you go.
Well, okay. I mean, obviously I'm not, but that's kind of fun that you're going to increase it. Now I'm going to see when I get into bad dates, I decrease the points or something.
Yeah, right.
Okay, that would be a lot of fun, actually.
So if there isn't a season 4 of Love Before 100, are you interested in doing something else? Will you be taking on another podcast or?
Yeah, I definitely love podcasting.
Yeah, now that you've got it, it's a bug, right? You get it, and it's hard to, as much work as it is, and as much, it's hard to stop. So,
definitely.
So you love it so much that you even want to get other people to do it.
Yes.
And by that, I mean, you have courses going to teach people how to do it. Get into it, continue on with it. When did you decide that I'm so good at it? And I don't mean that in a jokey way, but I'm gonna teach others to do what I've achieved.
So most of my thinking is done in the shower. So many times I would get in the shower
thinking about Hubba Hubba, but that's a different story.
No, usually I'm thinking about business, actually. The shower is sacred. It's not for that.
Okay.
But so I put on my kind of vision board, I have this book with magazine things in it. And what it said was, live a life that's a story worth telling. I had cut that out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had grown up as somebody that just thought I was not very interesting. Just people lose interest quickly. That was kind of my childhood wounding story. And so when I saw that, it really kind of spoke to me. So I had cut it out. And as I created, then I did this Tony Robbins Date with Destiny, where it's like a week-long thing and you come up with your mantra for life. And so mine was be love, create laughter, and feel alive. That was like what I wanted to do. And so being love instead of getting love or receiving love, it was just be love. And then creating laughter was kind of an easy, gimme one. And then feeling alive was really pushing me to be more adventurous, to travel more and to do things. And so when I was a life coach, I really talked about living this epic life. And just what do you want to do with your life? Do you want to be stuck in a job that you hate? Do you want to be stuck in a marriage that you hate? Or do you want to, so many people would say well, I can't because, and that was nails on a chalkboard to me. That whole wanting to save people and wanting it for them more than they wanted it for themselves. I couldn't handle it. But podcasting, one, gives me the space between trying to force somebody into a life that they, should be living or could be living, but aren't. But it also got me really excited about teaching people that your podcast can serve you in so many ways. And, number one question is always how do I monetize it? And I'm yeah, you can monetize it. But let me for me, Jim Rohn says that owning your own business is the best personal development on the planet. And I say having your own podcast is the best personal development on the planet if you do it the way I teach it. And so it's kind of getting out of your way, creating this life, creating the story. Everybody loves stories. I have these different elements that you can go from just sitting in the queue of 10 episodes that nobody's listened to yet because they're behind on it. I do have people say that they're behind on my podcast, but usually I have people messaging when's the next episode? When's the next season? What's happening with Hubba Hubba. Like, I need to know what's happening in your love life. I'm like, really? You do? You want to know? But
So is it more like get more personal about it?
So it's
bring them in?
definitely that, but you don't have to. It's also really getting into the hero's journey, right? Like of anything, even of starting the podcast. That's kind of one of the things that I taught my recent class. I was like, okay, we're going to follow the hero's journey for being a podcaster, right? And like there's the ordinary world, and then there's the call to action, there's the refusal. Most people stop at the refusal. They just go like, never mind, it's not for me. How many podcasts have one episode or have never been released, you know, and there's 4 million. And so how do you set yourself up to keep going and really fall in love with it? And if you go in expecting it to be a #1 hit necessarily, or make you all this money, if you're going into it without these other kind of motivations attached to it, you'll probably end up in the, podcast graveyard. So it's really about the mental game and then also the technical stuff, but that's the easy part. Making a podcast, setting one up is the easy part, but staying the course and putting all the time into it and getting to your 150, 200 episode, like that's
it's an achievement.
I think it's fun. I think it's funny because for us, I think it's the reverse. The consistency in doing it and getting to the 150, 200th episode has been the easy part. We still have no idea technology wise what the fuck we're doing around here. Like we're talking about, we want a second camera for here. And we're like, who can we help us with? Yeah, we're lost on all that stuff. So the easy part, and
it's like my life, we're still trying to figure it out.
I think it's easy because we get to have these fun conversations, and we've met so many people that, and when we started this, it was never thought of to be an interview podcast. We were just going to hang out, drink, tell stories, funny stories that have happened to us. And then it was like, we got one guest and you're like, oh, that was fun, and next thing you know, you're talking to, now I'm sure we've had 100 guests, so
talking to other people has been amazing.
Yeah.
Just, it's
So
been
many
fun
stories.
just to hear your story, to hear everybody's story.
Yeah.
And the positivity is really, it is. We've never had anyone on there's like donor, blah, blah, blah. But the positivity is been terrific. And that's what we like. And want to portray.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's one of the benefits that I always say is not only the guests and the connection, but like the podcasting community. Just like there's no other community where people want to see you win so badly. Even in coaching, it's like people only working with maybe 2 coaches at a time. So there's this little element of competition. But in podcasting, people listen to 5, 6, 7 podcasts at a time. So you really do, get this like friendship and camaraderie.
So you had mentioned that you were at a convention. Do you recommend those? Obviously, you're going to them.
I was just going to ask that.
Definitely. Highly recommend. So the podcast movement next March, I think, is in Chicago.
Oh, shit. Okay.
We're in.
Yeah.
I know there's one coming up in DC, a bigger one.
We talked about that in May, right?
August, I think.
August.
August.
Yeah.
So we're talking about going to that.
Yeah. And then Podfest is in Florida in like the winter time.
I don't think we'd actually show up for any of the convention. We'd be too busy partying. If it was in Chicago, we'd have to go to the convention. I can't afford to do anything else in Chicago. So.
That's true. But that's a whole year away.
Yeah, I can start saving. Yeah, we're gonna have to. Yeah. Okay, so conventions are. What is the biggest benefit? Just the networking?
I left feeling inspired.
Okay.
I got that one of the statistics I heard was spend 20 to 30% on your content, 70 to 80% on your marketing. So I came home and hired a full-time myself PR and marketing person.
I was gonna say, I think I just saw a story about this in the past couple days. Did you get complaints about the first story that you had to go back and explain that you were the person?
Yeah, I had some, well, not complaints, but I had a couple people say, wow, I didn't think you were the type of person to bash an employee online. I'm like, I'm not. If you listen to the whole story,
it was pretty clear by the first story that you were the employee.
Yeah.
100%. You caught it when you said your first one. Yeah. Which is funny.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to live life, and the way to do it is blah, blah, blah. it's me. Yeah, that was great. I thought it was hilarious
Thank you. I appreciate that.
and a great way to just get out there, to say it. But so have your lunch hours trimmed down from an hour and a half since that story and your boss got down on you?
So that was yesterday. I got this new app that like from my legal career, right? We did like billable hours. And so I actually downloaded an app to track how many hours this employee is going to spend doing the stuff that she's supposed to do.
Okay.
And then I made one for home stuff, because when you work from home, it's very easy to think that you don't do anything all day. I mean, other people probably think that, but I think that I'm like, what am I doing all day? So that's when I saw that I had an hour and a half lunch yesterday. But today, I don't know if you saw my Instagram stories,
Not
but
today,
there
I
is
apologize.
some type of animal that is scratching, trying to get through the like very thin screen in the hood in my kitchen, and it's trying to come in. And I don't know if it's a squirrel or if it's a rat or if it's a bird, but it peed through the screen onto my stove. Yeah. So I spent many, many, many hours, one, talking to it. It doesn't want to go.
You're hoping you could talk it into leaving?
Yeah. I mean, I yelled. My son's like, it doesn't speak English. I'm like, I don't know. Like, get out of here. Somebody was like, look online for rat sounds that it doesn't like. I'm like, it is going to pee more than onto my stove. So neither of us is happy, the animal or myself. And so then I went and I got duct tape at the hardware store, and I just taped it up because you could see it like trying to get through and it's scratching.
Jesus Christ.
That's not billable hours. Nobody's going to pay me to do that. And
if you would have videotaped it, you could have maybe used it as content. That would have been kind of funny.
Well, that's why I posted in my Instagram stories. I was like, hey, it's funny because it squawks at me. Like I do this. I'm like, hey, what are you doing up there? What are you? And then it squawks. And I was like, oh, hi. Oh, okay. And then I'm like, what makes that noise? Like,
oh, I got to go back and listen. I did not see today's. I apologize. Yeah.
Yeah. So
what? You're not watching all my Instagram stories?
Not today's. I was going backwards.
Everyone before that. So that's out there, the video of it squawking?
Yeah.
Has anybody come to your rescue and said it? I mean, have they guessed? Has anybody?
I had one friend who lives in Oregon, so that's very wildernessy, tell me that no, squirrels don't squawk, so it's probably a mouse.
I think it's a wombat.
Horrifying. It's big though. I mean, it's making a lot of racket up there, so I don't think it's a mouse. But
I want to watch it. I need to watch this.
I did post a poll though, and
Okay.
right now it's 50-50 mouse and bird.
All right, we're gonna listen and vote after this.
We'll do that. I'm intrigued now.
One night we were doing this was very early in the podcast, but one night we were doing a podcast and the patio door was open and a pigeon just came flying in.
No
And I think there's video of us trying to chase that fucker out.
It's so funny just because we're so ridiculous on how we're trying to get this thing out of here.
I mean, that's good content.
It was. Like, we should bring that back.
We should. We both freaked out. We freaked out.
Those are fans storming the castle to be part of the podcast.
Yeah.
That's TT Arrow. It's a hallmark landmark day for us today. We got like our first official troll on YouTube, so we are giddy with it. So
oh my god, congratulations.
Thank you. I know.
Thank you.
Felt like a big moment for us. So
it is. They say you haven't made it till you have a hater. So
right?
like, there you go.
I don't want to say this now that if you don't, you're not made it. That's not my point. But do you get a lot of haters?
Not a lot.
No, but I have one 1-star review. Please don't add to it, listeners of the show.
No.
And the guy said, 1 star, pathetic. That was I know. This lady doesn't know what she wants. And I was like, I think that's kind of the point of the show. And also, I do know what I want. I'm just not getting it. And also, I'm going to look you up now and stalk you. So I did. And I was like, oh, this guy's just not a happy person. I mean, there was like a plumbing company that really did him wrong. And he was like wishing death on them. And I'm like, you know what?
There's always those.
So now he wants death on everybody.
Yeah. He's hurting. I mean, he's hurt. Those people, they are hurting, And so I can have compassion and also be like, you just screwed up my perfect 5-star,
right
scenario.
Because they're not happy until everybody's miserable.
Everything's got a 1-star review. I mean, the best restaurants in the world have a 1-star review.
True.
Well, what I wanted to say was, you must not know what you want either, because people who know what they want don't listen to podcasts they hate and then take time out of their day to review it. They just turn it off.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. That's you don't bother to respond though, do you?
You can't respond. It's an Apple.
Oh, it's a review.
I could have looked him up and sent him a personal note, but I think that probably wouldn't have gone well. So
not worth your time.
I was going to do an Instagram reel about it, and then I thought, I'm not putting energy towards this guy.
Sure.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. You use your energy on a lot of other things. Obviously, dating, going podcasting, deciding if you're gonna do season 4 or not.
Yeah.
So how is the love life today?
I'm open to suitors.
Taking applications.
Well,
it's funny.
We're waiting on Hubba Hubba, which is a different story.
Hubba Hubba will not be a relationship, though. He is
obviously right. That's
he may be an experience, but he will not be a relationship.
I just want to put this out in the universe. Hubba Hubba, you missed your opportunity if it never happened and you fucked up. That's a different story.
We all have one.
So when you are on your dating apps, obviously you're okay with long distance, like still after the guy, because you went to Minnesota.
Yeah.
And because of your rule of not bringing him to your place, you flew to Minnesota for a date?
Yes, I did. And I paid
That's a big commitment for a date.
Well, we had been talking for
how long?
We had been talking for like 2.5 months when I went to Minnesota. Okay, so this is actually probably sounds bad. On our first date that wasn't meeting on the plane and talking for a month. So we met on the plane, we talked for 3 hours. Then we chatted back and forth, and his daughters followed me on Instagram. So there was a feeling of familiarity for a month. And then I flew up to San Jose because he was working there, and I did share a hotel room with him.
Okay. So you didn't fly. Okay. Yeah.
But I ran a background check.
Oh, and so at what point do you do that?
Oh, if I'm going to be alone with them, I run a background. Yeah. Oh, only if I'm going to be alone with them. I don't run a background check on everyone, but I ran a background check on the guy from the plane, Hubba Hubba, after the first date, but before the second date, and then the guy from Minnesota, the 25-year-old.
So for everybody out there, how do you do that? If somebody's like, well, how would you do that?
So whitepages.com actually, for like $9.99, you can put in their name and you can run a background check. And it showed me like traffic violations. It will show you if there's criminal, but I didn't see that. It'll show you their addresses, which is good because then it'll show you names of people just in case maybe one of them is a spouse, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There has been the whole on a dating app and they're married, but they obviously don't say that. And they never want to come to their house,
Some of them say, I'm married, but I don't get enough sex. Don't judge me. I'm like,
oh,
who's matching you?
Well, they're getting matched.
There's somebody for everyone, right?
There is. They wouldn't continue to do it if they weren't.
That's true.
I disagree a little bit with that. There's a lot of guys on date. I was on Tinder for a long time.
For a long period of time.
Yeah, and never once did Tinder work, but it was like running into a brick wall. You just keep swiping.
Okay.
So
okay. We are guys, so
yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I feel like a guy in this stage of my dating. I'm like, you know what? Forget it. Although, so I had a friend that saw my Instagram story about the rodent, the pest, whatever it is. She texted me this company that she used yesterday. And I was like, is he cute? Like, because I scheduled an appointment with him and she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, she's like, I
Come
didn't notice.
on.
I'm like, so you're saying there's a chance? Because my love language for receiving is acts of service and forgiving is like, physical touch. So I'm like, this could work out well if I could find someone that wants to do like the smoke alarm in here was beeping. And I was like, oh, great. Of course. Right. When I have an interview to do. So I had to pull out the ladder and climb up there and change the battery. And I was like, it would be nice to have someone service my house and then I could service them, like that would be a symbiotic, nice situation.
Yes.
So that's a perfect situation. But what if the guy is great lover, but just has no skills around the house?
I feel like I need someone that's skilled around the house this time around. It would just be so sexy to me.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's not a requirement, but it's like that you wouldn't be attracted to them to begin with. Possibly.
Right now I'm open, but if I could pick, that's what I would pick. But yeah, someone,
my key fob batteries were dead for like 6 months. My wife finally changed the battery last night, so I can't do shit either.
Well, she's smarter and more manly than you.
She is hot, yes.
And she's hotter than you. So is there any chance of this 25 / now 26-year-old going anywhere?
So he's still around and still like he lives in Los Angeles. So I saw him when I was there for the convention last week.
High five.
But what?
High five.
But no, I've seen relationships with age differences like that can work.
But can they? That's where I was going with this. So what if it was like, yep, we really dig each other, we're really into each other, we're gonna be exclusive. But at what point does that age gap hinder the relationship? And do you feel that it could work? I mean, maybe not today, maybe not 5 years from now, but
I feel like it could. Like my parents are the same age. My mom's a year younger, but she is youthful wise at least 20 years younger than my dad. What?
I love her already. I love old people that have youthful. I love her. Okay. I love people.
I said lover, like a youthful lover.
What? No, I love her attitude.
I do too.
Stop hitting on her mom.
No, I thought you said when I said she's youthful, I thought you said lover. So like a youthful lover, and I'm like, no.
I love her.
I don't know, maybe, but we haven't talked about that. Although she has asked me questions about, and my dad does listen to the podcast. He listened to seasons 1 and 2, and I go, Dad, you can't listen to season 3. But so I feel like it could, but here's the truth.
Yeah.
I don't think there are parts of myself that I, like through personal development have really come to appreciate, like my sense of humor. There's things, that I've appreciated, but I feel like he doesn't have enough life experience or women experience to really connect with the parts of me that maybe definitely someone that has been around might go like, you know what? I really like this woman and here's why. I just don't think he has that like life experience, or maybe I'm not that great. I don't know. It could be either one, but I feel like
a gentleman at 25 does not know enough.
Yeah.
At that age, they just don't.
Yeah.
Well,
and he's a great guy.
Even formed yet.
Our brains aren't
great
formed.
Guy. He has, exactly. Like finally the brain is formed, but
great lover, just not really like looking for
youthful lover.
Boom.
Just I can't see. even like that acts of service. I ultimately I want to be with someone older.
The good thing about a 25-year-old
Older.
is he probably could have just jumped up, climbed the wall somehow. He wouldn't even have needed a ladder. He's so young and agile. He could just
Change the battery, done.
wrestled whatever animals in there.
Exactly.
That animal would have been gone by now.
Yep,
Yeah.
shirtless and nothing but a fig leaf, just taking care of business. Yeah, good to be
Oh.
young.
Yeah.
So when's your next venture with a 26-year-old? I'm just asking because you seem
Well-
to be, maybe you were done with him, but it seems like you might want to have another.
Well, I'm not gonna have another young one. That was
Another
like,
adventure with him.
Another adventure with him. I mean, he does want to come to my comedy show that's coming up in a couple weeks. I don't know that I want that because I think what makes comedy good is the energy and the confidence and the, attitude. And it's almost like an alter ego of me that gets up there and can do that. And I
Yeah.
think having him and also knowing that he wouldn't get the jokes and also having jokes about a 25-year-old.
He wouldn't get the jokes.
Well,
His brain's not fully formed yet. We're just
my
teasing.
sense of humor.
Yes, of course.
Not everybody gets my sense of humor.
Okay, but in your one-on-ones when you're laying around, I don't mean laying around. I meant just
No, he
hanging
doesn't.
out.
I don't think he thinks I'm funny. That's what I'm saying. Like, I want to be with a man that like thinks I'm funny. I think I don't know what he thinks.
We
but,
just
I don't know what he thinks.
we had a dating coach for men on earlier this week and talked about how important it is to have a common sense of humor and be able to laugh at the same sort of things. And when they don't get the joke that you get, it is hard.
It is hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Or when you make the joke and they don't get it.
Yeah.
Like that is, I don't know. I think it's one of my better qualities. So I
Yeah.
feel like I want someone that can appreciate my sense of humor.
Yeah.
I had that with the guy from the plane, right? It was like, oh, you're so funny. But
on the plane ride.
On the plane ride and in Instagram DMs.
Okay. So what are your
Where is
rules today? I mean, you got your hubba hubbas, you got your 26-year-olds, got it. But when you're dating a true in your age range person, what are your rules or what are you looking for as far as as far as date number one, what I'm going to try to accomplish in date number one, number two, and again, what number date do you say I'm going to sleep with them?
Well, I mean, if he changes my smoke battery, I think it would be probably immediate, date number one. But I'm looking for someone that shows genuine interest in me as a person, that is consistent, like I think the problem with dating apps, especially here, is that you can be talking with 10 different women at one time. In fact, I do an episode where I talk about Yacht Club Guy and he talks about going out with 8 different women and he's not interested in any. And I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for. I want someone who goes and sees me and says, this is someone I could be interested in having a relationship with. I'm going to actually be serious about communicating, texting once a day, not every day, not all day long, not forever, but like once a day, just like a check-in, that consistency, like really shows interest. And I don't need big expensive dates or anything like that, but just quality time, taking the time to say like, let's get coffee and go for a walk, or let's go to dinner, or brunch, or a hike. It doesn't have to cost anything. It's really just about, I want to feel like the person is genuinely interested in getting to know me.
Right. Yeah.
And it's crazy how rare that is. So
it's kind of scary, actually.
Yeah.
Well, and I
sad.
think part of the problem is because it's so easy to just go, I don't need to spend time getting to know her. I'll just swipe and go to the next one. And I mean, dating apps have made it so easy to just move on to the next one, that, it's hard to find.
Yeah. That's the one thing to Hubba Hubba's credit is that he even though he wasn't consistent, he would keep showing up and he would remember things and he would talk to me about things. And there was an continued interest, which I feel like if you're gonna have a relationship with someone, you should continue to be interested in them. That's kind of a bare minimum,
Yeah.
So at what number of a date do you tell them about comedy, the podcast? And that's my drive. So don't even ask me to give it up.
Well, actually, it's funny because I've talked to a number of guys about the podcast. Usually it'll be when it comes up. So the first or second date, some I never tell, some like it'd be closer to like the fourth date. Um, but I say the whole reason I started it was to find love. So
Mhm.
if I
But-
found somebody, I would be done with, I could change it. I would do something else. Like
Yeah.
I absolutely am not in the place where I feel like the podcast is more important than a relationship. The relationship is way more important to me than the podcast. I love it and I want to keep doing it, but I would just change it
Yeah.
so that it fit having a relationship. The 26-year-old, he said, like, if you have to go on dates with other people for the podcast, and I said, like, I don't have to do anything. It's my podcast. I get to do what I want. And if I had someone come and say, like, I feel like crying just thinking about, like, if I had someone come and say, I don't want you to date other people. I just want to work on this.
Yeah.
That would be like the greatest thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you ever do part of a podcast with bringing your dates on them?
So I actually thought about inviting him onto the podcast, and then the
The
guy that I
26-year-old?
asked out. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't asked him, but I think he would probably do it because he said I could use his name, and he's portrayed very well,
Right.
because he has been really like a shining star compared to the other ones.
Yeah, nothing
Um,
negative to say about him, so why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But I think it's important to also say that I don't think that you are unfair or treat any. I don't think
Oh,
you've
God,
talked
no.
about anybody in like just rude way, or you're just reporting the facts.
Even
Right.
that guy.
And they are what they are. I mean, if this yacht club guy is going out with eight girls and he wants to tell you that,
So be it.
I mean, yeah, that's your right to talk about it, right? So
Yeah.
I don't think you purposely just went after people to make them look bad.
No, I definitely didn't want it to be, like, I know there's a lot of whatever man hating or whatever that is. And that is the farthest from me. I like have a lot of, respect for like men, masculine energy. I just like really do. And, I also have empathy for both sides in the dating process. And so I tried to come at it from like a comical, factual place, but yeah, even the guy from the plane, like I wouldn't bash him. It's kind of like it didn't work out, and that was heartbreaking, but it is what it is,
But you're strong enough to move on.
Correct.
And look at what you're doing now. So
Look at me now.
look at you now. Look at your podcast. Look at your coaching. Look at your coaching. Let's talk about your coaching real quick. About what do you offer and how do we get how would someone get a hold of you to join your coaching class?
So I have a website, thebingeablepodcast.com, because that is really what I kind of set myself apart in saying is that, like I said, it's easy to start a podcast. It's easy to have a podcast, but it's not that easy to get people to actually listen to your podcast. And so as someone that has, countless reviews talking about how it's bingeable and having won the Gateway Podcast Award and being in the top 1%, globally of all podcasts. I do kind of teach my secret sauce, if you will, to like what I did and what I kind of put together, which I've found to be particularly successful. And so I recently launched it. We're in the middle of our first session. We're wrapping up. It's a 6-week course. So we're wrapping up week 6 actually next week. And I have 7 women in the first course. It's not just for women, but I found that that's who really was attracted to it.
Sure.
Because of the like personal development pieces of it and the elements of like storytelling and creativity. It's not just nuts and bolts. It really is like kind of an all-in thing. And I had one of the women in my course that kind of seemed a little bit more skeptical going into it. On our last call, she said, I finally get it. She said, I felt very resistant to what you were saying because I listened to a lot of podcasts. She said, but I realized all the podcasts that I go to first, the ones that I have to be caught up on, those follow kind of the elements that you've put out for us. The other ones, I'll fall behind and they'll kind of just sit in the queue. And I don't feel compelled. That's what I talk about, like the compulsion, the cliffhanger, right? Like the cliffhanger is going to bring people back no matter what. They always want to know like how it ended because we're curious beings. We want to know like how did it end? And even my Instagram stories of this rodent up there putting like a poll, what is it?
Yeah.
People want to know, they're going to want to know what it is. Did I vote right? You know, was I correct? And so that's just, an example of how I try to teach differently. This is how you can get to the top of people's queues versus just down on their to-do list.
Nice.
Okay. And so go to your website.
And life coaching. You also do life coaching. Where can they find you for that?
So that is people that DM me on Instagram because it takes so much energy because I like actually want it badly for my clients. It's more of on a case-by-case basis. It's not like an open thing to sign up for. The podcasting course is a form of life coaching. I've actually had a client that I was working with and I was like, let's just do a podcast and we will do it as your personal development and you share the journey and, so that's kind of the life coaching that I do right now.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on and telling the story and the story about the story. People want to hear the story, they can go listen to the actual podcast.
Yeah.
And that's the big point. I think what you're trying to point out is your podcast isn't just you blabbering. It's a story and it's a fun one to listen to.
Thank you. Yeah, we put a lot into the sound effects and the music and voiceovers. Like I want it to feel like an immersive audiobook experience. So
yeah. And you would be good for audiobooks. You do read.
Good point.
The podcast is delivered that way where you would be a good audiobook reader. So yeah.
Maybe I'll look that up. I did look up, you guys would probably be interested in this, autoerotica, being a voice for that. So I haven't applied yet, but
wait, say something. Okay. Say something dirty.
No, I can't. I'm embarrassed on camera.
All right. You can send it in a private message. All right. Well, tell them where to find you and where they can hook up with you and all that good stuff.
So the podcast is called Love Before 100. It's on all the platforms. Instagram is the Rachel Burch or Love Before 100. And then my course is at thebingeablepodcast.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Oh, it was a pleasure talking to you tonight.
Yeah, it was fun. I appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you for listening. The tavern is closed for now, but we'd love to have you back for more fun next time. Seriously though, get your asses out of here.